All right, hi guys. My name is Tony, and like Emily said, as she introduced what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be talking about working with code remote. Just for how it's going to go, I have a little PowerPoint slide just to give you guys a general idea of exactly what's going to be going down, and then we're going to get into a little bit of a demo after the PowerPoint slides. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So let's start off with this PowerPoint presentation real quick. All right, so good evening, everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit about working with code remote, but I thought I would make it just a little bit broader at the beginning and give you guys some general tips on how to work remote and work remote effectively because thanks to this pandemic, like now school's remote, and I've been hearing a lot of people that even some companies have already started to make their summer internships completely remote, like for this upcoming summer. And for anybody graduating, like that's a real possibility as well. So it's very important to get like a pretty well-grounded understanding of like how things are going to go forward from here on out. So some general tips. Communication is going to be super important. It's going to make sure you have platforms where you can communicate, whether it's going to be on Slack, Discord, GroupMe, regular text messaging. Make sure that you have many methods of communication because you don't want to be sitting on a question for a couple of days. You want to make sure that you have a way to access somebody pretty quickly so you can keep projects working like efficiently and effectively, and everybody can be on the same page. So you got to make sure you guys are communicating, meeting regularly to break down parts of your projects and things like that. Always be looking for new tools and resources. I feel like that's the great thing with technology. Like different teams and people and groups are always pumping out super cool new resources that will make our lives a million times easier and will cut our workload in half. So there's so many great ones out there already that so many people use, but there's so many amazing ones that a lot of people are not as familiar with. So take the time, look up some new resources, some new tools that can be really helpful. Practice using these new tools, practice being comfortable working virtually, understand your resources and tools, like whether it be like Zoom, understand how to work, your Zoom tools, or maybe you're talking about Git or something. So make sure you're getting your practice in there and not losing your skills because a lot of things have been canceled, a lot of hackathons and things like that. So make sure that you're taking the time to work on your own so that you're not losing a lot of these skills that you have been acquiring. And finally, find a way to stay engaged. It's really important as we're losing like that physical communication, but it's important to not let that die down completely. So I think this is great that we're still able to keep Software Engineering Club up and running and still get that interaction with one another. And there's many other clubs that you can still join as well. So just try and find ways to stay engaged with whether it be in classrooms, ask questions and things like that. So you can still get the full benefit of whether it be a project that you're working on, a class that you're in, an assignment that you're doing while being in this remote environment. So here are some tools. This list is going to be some tools and resources that I have used or that I'm familiar with that will be effective while you're working remotely. So one, which probably has to be my favorite, is going to be Freehand. It's by InVision. It's essentially that is the picture that you see here to the right. Freehand is going to be, it's just like a whiteboard collaboration tool. So you can get it's free. All of these are free, by the way. You're going to get so many different so many different people onto this whiteboard. And it's really helpful in the beginning stages of a project. For example, if you're building an app, you can see here, they kind of drew out the idea of how they want their app to look, what they want their screen to look like, how it's going to work. It allows everyone to be on the same page because and you have so many amazing features of like drawing and some different things you can do on there, allowing you to be able to successfully get your idea on there. So Freehand is one that I highly recommend. It's a really good one. There's also Confluence. That is just, and Confluence works hand in hand with another software called Jira, and they together allow you to be able to manage your team basically. So for a smaller team, like a school assignment, I wouldn't really see you needing something as stacked as Confluence or Jira, but they're really great tools if you need them, and they're free as well. So I think for up to a team of 10 people, you can use them for free, and they'll allow you to seamless collaboration to like put out bug issues and track many issues within your project, task management, things like that. So this is like, it's going to help you manage like what you're doing. And then finally, Git. So Git is going to be your version control to help you keep track of your code, where everything is, where it's going to go. You have 3 different platforms that I'm familiar with that use Git. So Git itself is a separate software that you need to download onto your computer so your computer can recognize the commands that you're giving it. And then you're going to work in GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket, which are going to be platforms that allow you to work with Git. So the one that I am the most familiar with is GitLab, which is what we'll be using today in our demo. But GitHub and Bitbucket, they're also great. They're also free. Bitbucket is, I feel like it's a bit more robust and typically used in like bigger teams. But the ones more popular that I see being used, like, you know, like that I've used like for my classes and things like that, are GitHub and or GitLab. So now it's time for the Git demo. So as far as the demo goes, I'm going to go over how to create a repo, how to create a file and push it, how to modify a file and then push that file, how to work within branches, create new branches, and I'm going to explain all this along the way. And then I'm also going to talk about how you can bring code from your repo onto your computer to work on it and then push it back up there. So that's what we're going to go over today. So for GitLab, which is what I'll be using today for this demo, I already logged in, created my username, I created my account, and so I'm going to go to a new project, which is for GitLab. That's basically the equivalent of creating a new repository. So I'm going to call this one demo. And that's going to be my repository. I'm going to make it public because if you make it private, it's going to ask you to put in your username and password, and I just don't want to go through all that. So I'm just going to make it public. All right. So here we are in our repository. And you can see it gives you some kind of quick commands to get you started, which is really helpful, actually. It shows you, I always refer back to these whenever I'm trying to push something up or pull something down. It's just like if you're forgetting a step, it kind of just helps you out because like Git can be a little annoying sometimes. So like I said, now that I have my repo open, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open my terminal. And so now that I'm in my terminal, step 1, we've created the repo, so now I'm going to create a file. So 2 commands that you need to know when you're working within your terminal or your command prompt, whether you're on Windows. I'm using a Mac, so it's going to be a terminal for me. It's going to be ls, which will provide you with a list of folders within your current directory, and then you also have cd, which will allow you to enter any folder that you have in that list. So cd documents, and then you see ls again. So now my directory list has changed. As you can see, I entered my documents folder. So now I'm going to create a new folder so I can work within for my GitLab project. So I'm going to say mkdir, which stands for make directory, and then I'm going to give it a name. So for this one, I'm just going to call it today. And then I'm going to do ls again. And as you can see right here, we created that new folder, and I'm going to enter it. As you can see, it's empty. And something you'll see that I do a lot is I constantly check myself. So I'll make sure I'm in the right directory by saying ls a lot. So yeah, you'll see me do that a lot. So now that I have this folder, it's empty. I've checked that it's empty. There's nothing in there. I want to make a folder and put one in there. But before, so that's what I'm going to work out of. But before I do that, I'm going to initialize Git in this folder. So I'm going to run git init, which will initialize the Git repository in there. And it's letting me know that this is an empty repository, that there's nothing in there, which is fine. So after that, I'm going to run sorry, that's not Git one. It's just touch. I'm going to run touch, and I'm going to create a text file just so we can work on that for example purposes. So touch is going to allow you to create a folder. And once I ran that, it created the folder, and I'm going to go ahead and open it. There you go. So touch allowed me to create this file right here, and allowed me to open it. It's just going to open it in my typical text editor, and I'm just going to write some random stuff in there. Oh, hi, how are you today? I'm going to save that. Oops, no. Sorry, I just want to work with this one. I'm going to save this one. And let me just go ahead and delete this one real quick. I'm going to save this one, and then I'm going to go ahead and run git status. Back in my terminal, I'm going to run git status, which is going to be a really important command to know with Git. So essentially, what git status is doing is letting me know where my files are in stages of Git. So there's 3 stages within Git, and right now, well, as far as like files are, so right now my file is untracked, meaning that Git isn't keeping track of this file. It doesn't know if I've changed anything in this file. It doesn't know what's going on in this file. It just knows that this file exists, and it doesn't really know what's going on in there. And so because I want this Git to enter my, want this file to be part of my Git repository, I want to change that. So I want to let Git know that what's going on in this file. So I'm going to run git add. And with git add, there's many different ways you can add something in. So you can do git add, and then you can say the file name. In this case, that's not that bad because I'm just trying to add one file, but that can get kind of annoying if you're trying to add like 10 files or like 30 files or something like that. So another one you can do is you can run git add, and then you can just run period, put a period right there, and then it'll run all the files. I'm going to run git status again. And it, like, as you can see here, it said it's ready to be committed. So it no longer says it's untracked. This is now a tracked file, which is ready to be committed. So the next thing I'm going to run is, so now that this track is ready to be pushed, I'm ready to push it. Before I push it though, I have to let it basically know where it's going. So if you go back here, which is why I said I refer back to these a lot, right here you see it has this command, git remote add origin. It lets it know where I'm pushing it to within my Git folder. Where is it trying to go? So I'm going to just copy that in there. The command is git remote add origin and then my Git link, which is, you can use the HTTPS link, like the actual link, or you can use this one, which is, I think it's called like the SSL link or something like that. It's like different, but I'm going to run that. And now I'm going to commit the file. So what I did with git add is I made the file ready to be committed. And so now I'm going to actually commit it. So I'm going to run git commit -m, and then you always want to add a message when you're committing something. So for this one, I'm just going to call it first commit. And you usually want to have like a better message than that. You want to have the message describe what you've done, because you're going to be, usually you'll be using Git with a team, a group of people, and you want them to be able to know without necessarily opening the file what you changed in that file, why the file needs to be there, things like that. So finally, this, as you can see, it's still not in my repository. So what I want to do is I want to push it from my local hard drive, from my locally into my remote repository. So I'm going to go ahead and run git push. That's weird. Hold on. There we go. So I just run git push origin master, and it lets me know that it pushed my file. It gives you a bunch of information right here. It lets you know it pushed your file, where it pushed it to. It created a new branch. It created a master branch, and it lets me know that. So now if I go back to my actual repository, I'm going to refresh it. And here we go. I have my hi.txt file, and it just says whatever I put in there. So now I showed you how to create a file and push it. So I'm going to show you how to modify that same file and the changes that it makes within Git and within your repo that you're using and things like that. So I'm going to go back to my terminal, and I'm actually just going to open up that file again. Here it is. Close this out of the way. I'm going to open up this file again, and I'm going to say, I'm going to change this to hello. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to save it again. And then I'm going to run git status again. And as you can see, once again, it's letting me know that it's not telling me that this is untracked, but it's telling me that this text right here has been modified. So I want to, once again, change that and make sure that it's ready to be pushed. And then I'll show you exactly what Git does once I decide to do that. So next thing I'm going to run is git add. Git commit. Well, first let me run git status again. Once again, it's good. Lets me know that it's ready. I'm going to git commit. Just going to say change file. Now I'm going to run there we go. So then I ran git push origin master. Very similar to the last couple steps we did the first time. And now if I go back here and I refresh this, this right here shows me my new, it shows me my new files. And I'm going to actually go back to the repository itself. So you can see they also changed my commit. Right here is where the commit message goes, and it also changed it from my first commit to changed files. And in this repo, I can go to commits, and then I can see both of the commits that I made originally. It shows me what the file was when I started. So this is what I started with, what my commit message was, things like that. And then if I go back to my commits and I see my changed files, which is the one I just did, it tells me exactly what was changed within that commit. It says I took away hi and I made it hello. I added all this stuff but down here. Like, it just shows you what you did, which is really nice, so you can see exactly where you are, what was changed, things like that. So you can just keep track of what's going on. So it's a really cool feature that GitLab has, and I think all of them have it. I'm sure Bitbucket does. I'm pretty sure GitHub has it too, but I know this one has it. So now we're going to talk about some branches, but for that, I'm going to go ahead and create a Java file so that I can work that branch in a Java file. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run git branch. So before I actually do that, basically branches just kind of help you separate out your code, essentially. So a lot of times when I've worked with it, and I think this is just like kind of what happens, your master branch is going to be where like your main stuff is going to be happening. So that's going to be where you're going to want like your working code, everything that like is going to be pushed, everything that's going to be pushed to production, that's what you're going to want in your master branch. But if, let's say, like I have like a crazy idea one night for whatever we're working on with my team, and I think that this would be great in our project, but I don't want it to corrupt the whole thing. And what if the team doesn't like it? Then we'll have to go through the whole process of taking it out, pulling it out of the master branch, and it can be kind of tedious. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a branch. And this branch, what it'll allow you to do is it will give you the opportunity to kind of work around, mess things up, and not worry about it actually being in your Git, messing with your Git master branch, which is very convenient. So we're going to run git branch, and it lets you know that you only have one branch, and it's called master, and that's what you've been working with this whole time. But I want to change that. So I'm going to go ahead and run git branch, and then I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call it code, and I'm going to run git branch again. And as you can see, we have a new branch. It's called code, and this is where I'm going to put some code in. So right now, my git master branch only has text files in it, and now I want to put a Java file in it, just because why not? So I'm going to create a Java file. Well, actually, no, I lied. First, I'm going to enter my code branch, because as you can see, I'm still in my master branch. So the prompt for that is going to be git checkout, and then you're going to say the branch you want to check out. And it tells you right here, you're switched to the code branch, but if you don't believe your terminal for some reason, just run git branch again, and then you have it right here. So then now that I'm in the branch that I want to be in, I'm going to create a Java file. So I'm going to call this one, create my Java file. I'm going to open it in an actual Java editor. There we go. This is, if anyone's familiar with Xcode, they actually don't really run, it's really not made for Java, but I'm only using it because Eclipse kind of makes you run with like whole packages and things, and I just didn't want to deal with all that. So this is pretty bare bones stuff. So we're just gonna create a simple hello world. So here we go. So now we're going to go ahead and save that. And I'm going to just go ahead and compile it real quick. All right, we're all good. So we're going to run it again. We're going to say, all right, cool. So it ran, it gave me my output right here, hello world. So I know that it's good. So you don't want to push broken code into Git. You want to make sure your code works. So now I'm going to go ahead and push that into my branch. So I'm going to run git status again. And as you can see, I have both the class file and the Java file, but I don't want to push up the class file. I only want to push up the Java file. So that's where the git add file name is going to come in handy. So I don't have to push everything in. I can just push it in one at a time. To do that, as you can see, it's letting me know that these changes right here are ready to be committed. So my Java file, it's ready to go. But this one right here, my me file, it's still untracked and it's still not going to be pushed into my repository, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to run my git commit. and call the first Java file, and I'm gonna go push it. There we go. Oh man, I'm so sorry. I accidentally pushed it to the master instead of the branch that I was trying to push it to. So the code for that would be the same, except for I should have done git push origin code. Like, you want to say what branch you're pushing it to. And out of habit, I'm just so used to pushing everything to master. But so that would have went ahead and pushed it to my new branch, which is code. And that's what we were trying to do. So if we go in here right now, you see it's actually pushing. Okay, so the master branch doesn't have it. As you can see here, my master branch only has my text file. But if I go to branches and I see I have a code branch, click my code branch, and you can see here's my Java file. Let's open her up. Boom. So it has the code that I put in there, the code that I wanted. And you can merge if you talk to your team and they love your code and they want you to push it on in there, you can go ahead and push that in there. I mean, you can go ahead and merge that with the master branch, and there is a way to do it in your command line, but every time I run that command, it always gives me a little bit of an attitude, and it just doesn't do it properly. So I've always just found it easier to merge them in here. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do that now. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to merge requests. Wait, yeah. So you're gonna go to merge requests. So right here, it tells you what you're merging to. So this is exactly what I want to do. I want to take code and I want to merge it into master because my team said they loved it. You can write a little description of what's happening if you want. I'm not going to do that. And here, this is, it's going to delete the source file. I mean, the source branch. So it's going to delete the code branch, and all I'll be left with is the master branch. So I'm going to submit that merge request. And then it gives you the opportunity to accept it because, yeah, but if you have a team, it's going to ask for more people to go ahead and accept it and approve it. But I'm just going to go ahead and approve it. Okay. And now I'm going to go back to my repositories. And as you can see, my master branch now has both files in them, and I don't have a code branch anymore. There's no more code branch. It's gone because I merged them together. And so that's how branches are really useful and how they're very helpful for, separating out code and finding out what's important and making sure you don't break your code, because that's another thing too. You want to make sure everything works together, because that's going to be another part of this next step. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is we're going to want to, I'm going to show you guys how to bring down code, if that makes sense. So how to fetch code and do all that fun stuff. So let's say I want to get working on, I want to make some changes in here, or I want to make some changes in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and let's assume I don't have it locally on my computer. We're just going to make those assumptions right now. So what I'm going to do is there's kind of 3 ways you can do this. I usually opt to clone the repo. That's just the way I've always done it. But you can also run Git Fetch and Git Pull. They all do different things. So what Git Fetch is going to do is, if you can see here, if I run Git, so Git Fetch, what it's going to do is it's going to pull things down from the origin, but it's not going to override any code you already have. It's just going to bring things down. And so if I already have something going on with the me file, with the me.java file, it's not going to make any changes to that. However, Git Pull will. Git pull has the tendency to not corrupt your code, but it'll change your code. So if there was something on your local hard drive that you didn't want messed with, you probably shouldn't run a Git pull. You should run a Git fetch. However, in my case, I want the whole file and I want it on my computer. I want to make sure that I can get that whole thing. So on here, you can see here, it has this little clone button, very nice and easy for you. I'm going to go ahead and clone with the actual URL link. Going to copy that and go in here. Going to run Git Clone. And, oh, I didn't actually say Git Clone, sorry. Git Clone and then the link. So you gotta let it know what it's doing with that link. Cloning, and there it all is. So I'm gonna open my Finder. I'm gonna go to the file I just made, and you can see that here are the files I was working on earlier, but then again, here are the files that were actually in the repository. Here's what I cloned onto my computer. And that's what's great about this, that it doesn't override anything. It just brings things down and allows you the opportunity to like mess with it and then send it right back up. So that's what I love. That's why I typically end up using Git Clone rather than the other two. I just find them, you know, like easier, and I don't really have to worry about it messing things up for me because it just clones the exact repo down there. However, it can get like a little muddled up if there's like, if you have like 100 files in there, that can get kind of annoying, but like, yeah. So I'm gonna just, once again, show you guys, I guess I can show you guys the commands for Git Fetch. It's pretty simple too. It's the same thing. So you're just gonna run Git Fetch. And if you're trying to fetch from a certain branch, you can put the URL to that because it's just gonna fetch from origin. And that's what this was showing me earlier, this right here. When I ran that, it's going to tell me where it's going to fetch from. So it's just going to fetch from origin, but you can also like create it so it fetches from different branches and you can give them different titles. But here's just going to fetch from origin. Wait a second. There you go. There you go. And you can back up. I mean, I guess it's really hard to tell because it's the same files that I have in there, but they're there. These codes, these command prompts, a lot of them do the same things. And yeah, so the thing with Git is it's always important to keep working at it. Like there's so many more commands that I didn't go into today. There's a lot more, and Git has so much functionality, but I feel like to get things started and to get working on, you know, just pushing, pulling, getting comfortable with those commands, fetching, cloning, things like that. Those are like the core things that I've been using since like I started getting acquainted with Git. And those are the things I feel like are kind of important for you guys to know today, like on like a very beginner level of like getting to know Git. So I guess now I can take any questions if I didn't explain anything well enough, or if you guys were curious about anything or had any things that I can help you with. But just a disclaimer, I'm not like a professional Git user, so there might be some questions that you have that I myself don't know, but I can try and help you. So yeah, any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or just feel free.
You have one in the chat right now.
Okay, let me go ahead and take a look at that. Where's the Zoom thing? I don't think I can see it because I'm sharing my screen. Yeah,
I can say what it is.
Please.
Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna butcher this name. Mahmoud Hamza said, "I'm unfamiliar with GitLab. Any recommendations for me? I'm familiar with Dr. Java and JGrasp."
Do you mean recommendations as in like using GitLab? Yeah, because I'm not familiar with JGrasp personally, but I am familiar with Dr. Java. GitLab works great with Dr. Java. That's what I used many years when I was working with Dr. Java. So GitLab is really easy to learn too. like it's very, and like that's one thing I like about it, how I showed you guys before, the fact that, and a lot of them do this too, but they'll have like little prompts for you guys when you're getting started, like kind of learning how to you know, the different command lines and stuff like that. It'll kind of help you get started on that. So I personally recommend GitLab if you're getting started. It's not as robust as something like Bitbucket, but it gets you everything you need, especially like right now in school. Like you're not going to need a lot of the functionality that Bitbucket provides. So
Can I add something? I know it's your
yeah,
workshop.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
So I just wanted to point out that GitLab has, I just thought this was kind of neat. GitLab has always been remote, like as a company before the coronavirus, everything. And because of that, they literally document everything about their process. And so I'm going to post a link. Here's a link on GitLab Basics in case you want to have like a actual source. I just posted that in chat just so you know, Tony. But yeah, so it'll take you through a whole bunch of stuff, and their docs are usually pretty good. They also have like an entire doc about how to conduct business like fully virtual. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's really cool information, actually. The other day I was doing some research on them too, and yeah, like that was something that, like, you know, GitLab is like, it's pretty cool. Um, yeah, so I see your Malia. I hope I said that right. Yeah, I totally agree. GitLab is more user friendly than GitHub. That is totally agree with you there. GitHub is like it, like that. It kind of made me scared of using Git because I felt like, you know, I was having a hard time with it. But then somebody recommended I try GitLab, and it worked like a charm. There's also, I think it's GitHub that has a desktop version, which I really wouldn't recommend. I tried using it many times and couldn't figure it out. If anybody like, well, if anybody else was able to, then like, let me know. But I would not recommend the desktop version. Yeah. So yeah.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've never used Git before, but I'm guessing in order to use those commands in the terminal, you had to like install Git to your computer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you do. You can just search it up. Pretty sure. Hold on, let me get this out of the way. Yeah, you're gonna want to download and install it into your computer. Just right here. So yeah, just right there. It doesn't take very long. If you have I have a Mac, so I download the Mac version. If you have the Windows version, or if you have a Linux computer, whatever, you download whatever version you want, and then you can like kind of get going and get started and work in your terminal. Windows computers work like they kind of work a little differently. I'm familiar with Mac, so Mac users, you would use the terminal, but Windows, I think it's called the Windows prompt or something like that. Not 100% sure, but yeah.
Be the command prompt, right?
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that one.
It's also important to note if you're on Windows, there's this app you can install unless it's already installed on your computer called PowerShell. And essentially, like all the commands that Tony was using, like ls and stuff like that, that won't work in the console, the console prompt, but it will work in PowerShell. So you can use like PowerShell to like use like the commands that Tony was using.
Yeah, because yeah, I'm not familiar with a lot of like the quirks about a Windows computer. So maybe like, but if you have like, but for Mac computers, like I can definitely help you guys out there. But quirks with the Windows computer, you're gonna have to go to someone else for that one. But yeah, any other questions?
I know that people use like GitHub for like resumes and stuff. Are you familiar with like other ways you can use GitLab for like resumes? Like, have you personally done that, or?
Yes and no. Like, I mean, I've never put my resume on GitHub, but back in the day, whenever, like, I mean, I took them down because, like, it was like really simple stuff. But like when I would like complete a code that I was pretty proud of, like, I would put it on GitHub, and like then I would like link my GitHub to my resume, and I would put that on my resume so that people could check out like my work that I've done. And I've seen like a lot of recommendations to do that. And I think that that's great if you have like, code that you're proud of and code that, you want people to see. But I haven't done that actually like recently. It was on like a couple versions ago of my resume that my GitHub link was on there. So I think actually the link is still on there. I just don't think there's anything in that repository. But yeah, so that is what I'm familiar with people linking their GitHub on there. But I mean, if anybody else has any other ways to do that, feel free to chime in.
I don't know if GitLab does this, but I know GitHub, they have something called GitHub Pages, which is like a free hosting service, so that way you can actually like host a personal website or resume on your GitHub. But I think most of the time people just like link their GitHub to like a LinkedIn account, or they share it on their resume.
Yeah, that's what I'm more familiar with too. But yeah, it's pretty cool too. I didn't know about that one. But yeah, I see a question in here. It says the GUI for Git is handy, but I still need to know how to use the command line to do everything I need. That is pretty true. Yeah, like there's some things you can do in here. Like I said, like you can merge in the command prompt. But also you can do it right here using Git. You can merge your branches and stuff like that. You can make pull requests too, I think, in here, or maybe that's a different one. But you can do quite a few things in here. But the command prompt isn't as daunting once you like kind of like wrap your head around it, which is why like I really recommend that people practice with it. Because once you start practicing with it, you'll start to understand what's happening. You can kind of figure out where you are. And like, you're going to make like a lot of mistakes, get really stuck, get very frustrated. But eventually it'll just kind of start to click and you'll get to know it. So like the command prompt isn't as like daunting as it seems it is because, yeah, just a little practice and yeah. Will this recording be sent in Discord or Slack? Good question. I think we said it would be posted on the YouTube, right?
Yes, I will try to get that on YouTube. But if not, it will be on Discord and Slack.
There you go.
Sorry, if I can, I'd also like to add on to the to Aaliyah's question about the command line. If you're really interested in some more basics, I did post in the Skillshare channel in the Discord. Might be like a couple of weeks now. Might be like a week old, but it's like a intro to command line sort of basics thing. That's pretty much all you'll need really to use Git to its fullest. It's just like the basics of it. So if you want to give that like a quick read, but I think it goes over a lot more than basics, to be honest. But it starts off with basics and pretty much everything you should know about it within like the first like three chapters of it in, or pages of it in. So if you want, I could post that again because it might be buried now. But that is a resource that is out there.
Yeah, and piggyback on what Dorian said, there's a lot of great resources out there. If you literally just search up what you're trying to do, like just say how to pull something in Git, you'll get so many links from just so many different resources for Git. So there's a million out there. So feel free to just start Googling. And I see a question in here. I'm a freshman, so I'm unfamiliar with working in projects in Git. I understand the commands, but I'm unsure what the purpose of GitHub and GitLab is. So essentially the purpose of GitHub and GitLab is going to be just helping you have somewhere to put all your stuff. Basically, like the way I picture it in my head is that you have multiple people, multiple teams, and we can all access this one page. So it just helps you be able to work together in a group better. But also not just that, like I've used GitHub and GitLab for personal projects too. It just helps you keep things in track, keep things on track. It helps you understand what happened, when it happened. Like you can see here, like I'm going through all my commits, and you can see like even the stuff that I've changed that I went away, like it tells me like I deleted a whole master branch and it was like taken away. It lets you know exactly what happened, so it helps you keep track of yourself. Keep yeah, like I don't know if I'm answering that question well, but it really just, that's essentially what it does. Like it helps you and teams keep track of like what's going on and things like that. There's another question. I think you kind of went over it, but what was the difference between Git Fetch, Git Clone, and Git Pull again? So Git Clone, what that's going to do is that's going to basically take everything from your repository and put it into your local, onto your computer. So I'm going to open up that file again, and you can see here that when I was working before I cloned that file, these files were all that was in there. But then I hit Git Clone, and it brought that demo file with everything in the repository onto my computer. And that just basically, I use this a lot because most times I do want everything in the repository so I can get working on it. However, so it didn't corrupt any files and stuff like that. But what Git Pull is going to do is Git Pull is going to override your files. So Git Pull can change existing code that you already have. So you have to be careful with that one. Like if you don't want to, like if you have if, for example, I have two files named the same thing, and if I did a Git Pull, it would probably override this file right here with this other Java file up here. And then Git Fetch is more closely similar to Git Pull because it'll bring everything down. So it'll bring whatever you're trying to pull down, but it won't override your files. So it'll just kind of bring down another copy of like whatever you're working on. So it's not going to override any files that you have. And so that's why they're helpful to work on. So if you're going to use any of them, I typically just clone the repository, but when I have, I usually just use Fetch. I rarely ever use Git Pull, but they all have their different functions and they all serve a different purpose. So any horror stories of where you overwrote or lost a program? Good question. Not that I can think of, honestly. I don't know. I don't really have any, actually.
If I may, I actually have one.
Feel free.
Yeah, this sort of I guess ties in with another use of GitHub or GitLab or Git in general. So I was working with one of my personal projects, and I was kind of falling behind on my commits and pushes. But my hard drive got corrupted one time, so I had to format it. So all those changes I didn't commit were lost, gone. So when I pulled, once I got everything back down and I pulled, I was I don't know how many lines of code behind, so I had to rewrite it all. And that delayed me a lot. So that's also another use of Git. If you like individual use, it's good for it's good storage in case your computer decides to not work anymore. So that is another use and a horror story that I was very unfortunate to go through. But yeah.
Sorry, my internet cut out for a little bit. Can I also share use cases?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so can I actually share my screen?
Yeah, sure. Let me go ahead and stop sharing.
Oh wait, you might have to make me a co-host because I made you the host and then I lost host privileges.
Yeah, sure. Let me just see how to do that real quick. Oh, can I just click on your name and do it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. I'm gonna make you a co-host. Did that work?
Okay. Yep.
All right, cool.
There you go. Okay. You guys can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So so with GitHub or GitLab or whatever, it's really cool to have something where you can like show your work. So like as somebody pointed out, I think in an earlier question, you can use this as like a kind of a portfolio of your work. As you can see, like I have 20 repositories, so when I share this, people can see the work I do, the quality of my work, how do I code, do I use best practices or my cowboy coding, do my projects actually work, on top of what Dorian was saying. That's more for personal use, but if you ever go into an organization like a it could be either for school, whatever, you might end up having, as you can see, as this one I'm a part of, had like 60 repositories of different code, with like a total in just one repository being thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of lines, over the course of multiple years. So if you didn't have Git for this, it would be really, 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 really hard to manage, first off, 7 people on a project, and second, just the amount of code that you have to work through and work with in order to get just one product working. So did that kind of help? Like, with that, I lost, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's very kind of hard to see when you're a freshman because you're working on kind of very personal projects, very like how do you use a for loop, how do you use a class, what's an object, what's inheritance kind of stuff. But as soon as you start moving to where you need like 2 different projects to basically create one product, you definitely want to use like Git and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Just piggybacking off of what she said, like, it can be like really daunting at the beginning, like all of this. Like when I was starting out, like I did not know how to use all of this Git and all this stuff properly. But like you really just kind of pick it up as you go, which is why practicing is super important. You're gonna have a lot of trial and error, a lot of frustrating nights where you can't get something to commit, and then you find out it was like the silliest reason it couldn't commit. So, yeah, so just keep trying, and like eventually like this stuff, it clicks really easily. So yeah.
And I would also say that Git is pretty industry standard at this point. There used to be other technologies such as like Subversion. I don't think Subversion is really used anymore, but Git is pretty standard, I think, in industry now. A lot of companies use it. So the sooner that you can like get working with it, and just having some experience will put you way farther ahead than yeah.
I had a question about you were talking about branches, like the master branch, and you created other branches. So I don't understand necessarily how the code that you put into the other branches, how do they like what is the relationship between the master branch and other branches, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So essentially, my master branch is where. So if I'm creating an app or something, my master branch is going to be where like my stuff that's going to get pushed in production is going to be, like where everything that I want to be happening. So the example I gave of like me just having a crazy idea for something and I wanted to test it out, but I wanted to test it out without having it affect what was in my master branch because I didn't want it to mess up anything in there. I can create a separate branch, and that separate branch allows you to work on stuff and work on things completely separate from the master branch, which is really nice. So like just like an example, so like when I was interning, I worked a lot on testing, and a lot of the testing that I did in a separate branch from the master. The master, anything that got pushed into master, which would be deployed, we had to go through like 8 or 9 different developers to check it before it would like actually get pushed. So that's why, so like for any test that I would write, it would be written in a branch. And then when everything was good and you saw like I tried to merge the two branches. When I create a merge request, and then people would check that code. So my bosses would check it, like my interns would check the code. And so you have like 8 or 9 people checking the code, making sure it works, making sure it's not going to break anything. And then once they've decided that, oh, this is good code, like everything is fine, they're going to merge it, and then it'll be part of the master branch. And so it'll just be like so like now it's there and it's ready to be pushed into production. So, and like I feel like that's just like, a really nice fail safe, so you can work on things, still have it remote and up there in your repository, and like still have people be able to have access to it. Like anybody is able to access it and check out what I'm doing, work on that branch, add other things into that branch without making any effects to the master branch. I hope that made sense.
Oh yeah, for sure it does. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks guys for all the questions, and I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can, hit me up on the Slack channel or the Discord, or you can email me. Reach out. I can, if you guys have any more questions about Git, I can try and help you guys out. So, all right. Have a good night, guys.